Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 will release this year, and there's a lot of hype with each Bluesky post Toby makes. However, what I find more interesting about these casual status updates is how they illuminate not only Deltarune's development process, but the many steps involved in making an indie game. So I thought it'd be fun to look at these updates, how they correspond to the steps Toby outlined in the release of the summer newsletter, and finally, guess when Deltarune may finally release this year. So, let's get started! The summer 2024 newsletter gave us the most in-depth look at Deltarune's production by thoroughly outlining the entire process required to release the game. For a more in-depth discussion of these steps and other content from that newsletter, you can check out my initial analysis and reaction to it. With that being said, it was incredible to see so much transparency from Toby, which will be a recurring trend throughout future updates. He didn't mince words. Instead, he laid out every step required to get the next 2 chapters out. In short, he gave the following steps. Testing the new GameMaker LTS function, complete the untested PC build of Chapter 4, console ports, localization, bug testing, and finally release. It all began with the GameMaker LTS feature, which was designed specifically for Deltarune. This game change process allows each chapter to act as its own self-contained game within a game. This function was designed to help the production process, as the scope of Deltarune rivaled any GameMaker games that came before, and by separating each chapter into its own segment, it allowed for more flexibility when constructing and refining the individual chapters, rather than having to fiddle around with the greater whole. We got our first potential teases to LTS functionality when Toby started making his Carpet and other shitposts on Bluesky the following month, using the same vocal samples from Burning Men's Soul of Persona Trinity Soul fame, because Toby is a man of taste. This also began a trend I noticed in the fandom where people would take Toby's tweets and Bluesky posts and try to read foreshadowing into them. For instance, one of the shitposts had a theme that people speculated belonged to Tenna, though there was nothing really confirming this one way or the other. But during a content drought, people will take whatever they can get, and it was all in good fun. Then, in November 2024, we finally got the first Deltarune LTS release and public bug tests. While this new build didn't add a ton of new material, Swatch finally got an on-model overworld sprite, and there were other minor changes as well. One of the most amusing bugs to come out of this whole process was the malformed variable bug, when you gave the plushies to anyone besides Birdly or Noelle. Clearly the power of Susie and Ralsei was simply too strong for mere mortals to comprehend. We also got cool progress markers for each file in the chapters, not only for completing the chapter, but for Shadow Crystal Collection, further improving the game's quality of life features and incentivizing completion. Though it is worth noting that Toby said that the individual files will not have any significant differences between them. This more or less debunks the idea that the individual save files will have unique qualities after Chapter 1, but we'll see how it goes. Further into the summer newsletter, Toby teased Chapter 3's localization process with several screen caps showcasing dialogue in both English and Japanese, giving fans a little more food to chew. These were small teases, like confirming Rule's card would get into more mischief in Chapter 3, giving us a tiny taste of the Weather Duo's personalities, and a look at some item descriptions. However, we'd have to wait a bit for our first look at Chapter 4. But not too long, the September newsletter came swiftly, and in it, Toby gave us small updates on Chapters 3, 4, and 5. In it, he confirmed that PC testing would start in October, with Chapter 3's Japanese build in the testing phase already. He met his personal deadline to complete Chapter 4's content in September, and even gave us a sneak peek at Noelle in the Light World, presumably somewhere close to her house. This suddenly reshaped the ideas people had of what Chapter 4 would be. Whereas before people thought that the flower shop would be the main setting, now we have a new contender in the holiday residence. Chapter 4's localization was underway, though not complete yet, and Toby confirmed that Chapter 5 was the primary focus for everyone not working on localization, ports, or bug testing. Our only hint toward this chapter was a single balloon, possibly hinting at the birthday party or the town festival. On Halloween of 2024, we got our first confirmation that Deltarune would release in 2025, though at the time localization and console porting were still underway. As an added bonus, we got some adorable art by Temmie and a silly little animation by Toby with some spooky jams. The holiday newsletter gave us further updates, showing the game was well into professional testing, and the first mention of a long section with no save points, while giving teases to Chapter 4's localization and confirming that testing would start once translation wrapped up. More interestingly, we got further ties to the holidays via the Christmas tree sprite and some dialogue snippets, including solid confirmation that Birdly's role in the story was far from over. At least in the normal route. Whether or not he was asking Chris or Susie to the festival remains to be seen. While Toby didn't reveal a lot of information on Chapter 5, he confirmed steady progress and showcased a silly sprite of burger pants in a suit and a Christmas wreath, leaving a lot up in the air. Throw in a little short story about Noelle and Des making snow angels, and we had a lot to chew on and dissect. And I had a ball going through this in my follow-up video. As of January 6, 2025, Toby has posted regular status updates on Deltarune's production on his Bluesky, which nicely correlate to the checklist he gave back in September, giving us a closer look at each step on the journey. On January 20th, Toby confirmed localization was winding down and testing was still underway. More interestingly, he mentioned the addition of a Light World save point to add his initial reservations towards adding them. This sparked interesting discussions as to whether or not the Light World save points would be diegetic, if they'd resemble Undertale's yellow save stars, or just be the annoying dog himself. Soon after, on February 2nd, he confirmed that PC testing was just about done, and they were about to move on to console tests, bringing us to step 3 out of 5 from the newsletter checklist. At the same time, he mentioned the necessity for achievements on PlayStation, and on the 16th, he gave us an update that console testing was still ongoing, but PlayStation testing hadn't started yet. Oh, and he had to make sure the demo save integration worked smoothly. Then, on February 9th, he posted the following. Showed my family and friends a minigame I've been working on for Deltarune, and they all described it as a cry for help because your game is not out. My family clarified that this was a good thing. My other friend didn't clarify, but they did laugh for about 10 minutes straight hearing me play it. Same friend who played Chapter 3 like over a year ago, and also told me, I miss Tenna. And I was like, man, that's something no one in the world has ever said, huh? People understandably went wild after the Tenna name drop, as this was the first time the character came up by name other than the Damn You Tenna URL in the Spamton sweepstakes. And that was years ago. For the really obsessive Deltarune fans who had been in the community for years, the existence of Tenna wasn't especially surprising, but personally, this reminded me of a tweet Toby once made a long time ago where he said, Chapter 2's development is going well. I had a friend try a beta version. She enjoyed it a lot, and when I asked her her favorite character from Chapter 1 or 2, she said Birdly. I don't know what to do with this feedback. Notably, I made a joking response to this Bluesky post, suggesting that Tenna might be the Birdly of Chapter 3 in terms of character reception, though some folks missed the reference. Either way, the fact that Toby even mentioned Tenna felt huge simply due to the likelihood of him being a major antagonist in Chapter 3. After that came pure madness. On February 17th, Toby posted, Still console testing. There are fewer bugs, but there's a lot to go through. Haven't even tested PS5 yet. In addition to fixing Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, we also need to implement Pluie. This led to a ton of reactions and speculation as to who or what Pluie even was. A character? A function? A complete troll? Something related to PlayStation? This tweet also basically lifted the phrasing of the previous update, just with Pluie added at the end. But that was just the beginning, because the next day Toby posted, we implemented Pluie. He even briefly changed his profile message on Bluesky from Chicken to Pluie, only to quietly change it back not long after. To call this a viral hit in the Deltarune fandom would be a vast understatement. People went wild for Pluie, despite no confirmation that it was anything more than a certified Toby Fox troll, not unlike Tumblr's Goncharov. Fan designs, fan music, and heated debate followed suit. Personally, I'm currently in the camp that Pluie was just Toby trolling, or perhaps an inside joke among the development team. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's quite enough to really read much into it beyond him previously mentioning Tenna in another update. But people were having fun. Hype levels kept rising. Wearing a hat briefly crashed the game. PS5 testing was finally underway, and on March 3rd, 2025, Toby stated that PC bug testing was winding down, making a comparison to slurping soda stuck between ice cubes. A sign soon that the dog would defrost. After he had to explain Magic Glass, an overlooked feature in Undertale and Deltarune, where player characters who walk slightly out of bounds may move across glassy tiles. And as of the making of this video, we must mourn tea theory, as Toby just confirmed on March 10th that all character teas would turn into rotten tea in future chapters, likely to avoid complications depending on future party members and plot developments. I certainly can't blame him, considering how huge of an undertaking it would be to have tea change how much it heals depending on character arcs. So, with console bug testing well underway, that begs the question, when will Deltarune release? Initially, I'd considered March 4th a fitting release date due to Chapters 3 and 4, but that obviously didn't come to pass. Despite all the Deltarune tomorrow memes, which Toby himself has even alluded to recently, I honestly don't see the game releasing before Q2 2025, simply because they still have to get the game rated by the ESRB and other ratings boards, release the trailer, and ramp up the marketing. With that being said, Undertale being $1 on Steam and Toby lampshading the Deltarune tomorrow memes does suggest that it'll be soon rather than later, and I suspect I know when the trailer could appear. The April 2nd Nintendo Direct. While it's true that this Direct is tailored towards Switch too, I fully suspect Deltarune will launch on it alongside the Nintendo Switch, and there's a huge overlap between Nintendo fans and Toby's audience. Theoretically, an April 3rd release would still fit the numbers of the chapters too. Of course, even if that isn't the case, I think sometime in April is fairly likely with how fast things are progressing. If nothing else, I think that spring is extremely viable, and we won't have to wait until Undertale's 10th anniversary to experience the next part of this story. But what do you think? Feel free to speculate in the comments below. I realize this is a more casual format than my other videos, but I'm slowly trying to come out of a burnout. The Akechi analysis script is in a very rough state, but I did start it. And I did briefly resume playing Moon, and hope to finish it soon so I can do more workshopping on the meta-narratives and gaming video. ADHD is a bit rough, however, and if you want to stay up to date on all my projects, please consider supporting me on Patreon, like these fine folks here. You'll get access to a lot of work-in-progress material, and hopefully soon some more exclusive content too. Additionally, Inverted Fate just turned 9 years old this month, and to celebrate, we dropped the demo for an interactive chapter pack. This project aims to revamp previous playable Inverted Fate projects in an updated engine with additional challenges and quality of life updates, as well as include never-before-seen playable segments like Primetime, Turnabout, and an official version of the Sands fight later on. You can find the Game Jolt page in the description if you want to check it out. Regardless, thanks so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.